Okay, so this is the fourth time I've tried to do this. So I'm going to try and keep it quick and try and keep it clean and as anonymous as possible. So MAOReloaded. Okay, basically you need to understand a couple things. First thing is obviously the red pill, okay, because the buyer strategy that you find there is very crucial to your success in using MAOReloaded. Okay, so if you haven't already watched the red pill, then you need to stop what you're doing, go back, watch all 6 videos, okay, and understand the concept that there is no spoon, the great lie, and most of all, you need to understand, okay, your digital image, all right, because that's what's really going to be important to understanding how this whole thing works. Because in order to make this work, you've got to have all the pieces in place, okay? So let me tell you a story, all right? This is the best way to explain MAOReloaded. Now, I've done this probably the last 3-4 deals since I've really got into this, concept of, being a buyer and the red pill and all that. But the point is, the red pill notwithstanding, it's just a convenient way to explain a concept. That's really all the red pill is. I mean, I love the movie and all that, but I'm not some kind of Star Trek fan or something like that. But the point is this, okay, that it's really important that you understand the psychology behind all the players involved, okay? So, here's the story. This particular deal, an agent called me up and said that she had a property that she wanted to list for $299, but it had some tenants in there and she wasn't too crazy about it. And would I consider coming out and taking a look at it, because she knew from my online presence as well as my friends and whatnot with what I do, that I buy a lot of houses, and maybe I'd come out and just, give her an idea what it would be worth to me. I said, okay, great, no problem. What would be a good time? We settle on Friday, 2 o'clock, something like that. I said, great, no problem. I said, how much you want to list this thing for? She says, well, it needs a lot of work. If it was all fixed up, I figured out the value. The ARV would have been $350. If it was all repaired, $350, okay? Problem is, it's never been updated, and it's built in 1981, so it's going to need 30-40 grand worth of updates, easy, And so by using the MAO formula, my maximum allowable offer would be somewhere in the order of about 200, okay? But the problem is that when you go to a listing agent who calls you, or whenever you're dealing with a prospect in any way, you got to understand where they're coming from, because that's most important of all. They're thinking 300 is what we're going to list this for. I'm thinking I'm going to, want to give you 200. Right over the phone, you're never going to get that through. So when I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not really sure, but I'm thinking I could probably pay like 230. Okay, so right off the bat, the MAO formula is out the window. Okay. Now, if you're experienced, you could probably stop all this and just move on and do something else that's fun, because, really, this is kind of a basic premise. So if you're new, hang in there. But if you're, been around a while, then you can probably skip this. It'll save you some time. Okay. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm just trying to explain the concept. So anyway, so when I get there, now I don't really know what this house is worth. MLS is really no help. I'm an agent. I'm having trouble even myself trying to figure out what this thing's worth. So I call up another agent friend of mine, another wholesaler. Incidentally, if you're a realtor watching this, there are wholesaling agents just like me in your marketplace. And if you're a wholesaler, then there's wholesaling agents just like me in your marketplace. So you might want to find us. We can help you. Anyway, so here we are at the house, and I don't even know what I'm supposed to really offer for this thing. Over the phone, I've said 230. So I call up another agent friend of mine, and I said, why don't you give me an idea what you think this thing is worth? Because I trust him. He's not going to screw me out of the deal. And he says, you know what? I think I could do one better. And I said, what's that? He says, well, why don't I bring the buyer? I know a buyer who'd buy that. I said, really? Okay, sure. Then, just keep him under control and, make sure he doesn't screw us out. Oh, yeah, no, he's cool. Okay, fine. So we meet at the house Friday, 2 o'clock. And then, okay, the listing agent's there, the 2 tenants are there, the agent shows up, and the buyer shows up, Everybody is at the house with the exception of me. I'm 10 minutes late. I don't show up till 2:10. When I show up at 2:10, I see a Homevestors truck and a guy with Homevestors shirt on, my agent wandering around with agent stuff on his car, the agent herself there, the two tenants there, and I'm late. And they're just wandering around aimlessly. Now, mind you, I don't have this under contract or nothing. That's all that's happened is a phone conversation. Did I worry about that? Not in the least. You know why? Because the Bandit Sign King knows one thing, that people want to deal with a buyer who cares. They're not going to deal with the agent because he's an agent. He's not a buyer. They're not going to deal with the investor in a Homevestors truck and a Homevestors, little thing on the side of his truck and, Homevestors shirt and all that. They're not going to deal with him. Why? Because he's an investor. Investors don't care. But Carl cares. So I go in the house and I take a look around and I said, man, this is a great house. Wow, it's beautiful. Hang on just a minute. Let me go talk to my friends, figure out what I think this thing's worth, and I'll come back with an offer. She says, great, no problem. I'll be right here. Great. Go back out there, shake hands. Hey, guys, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And they tell me that they'll sell it, they'll buy it for $250. Okay, now I've already disclosed to the agent and all the sellers and all the parties involved that I am acting as a principal. So if you're an agent and you're about to start screaming bloody murder, understand from the very beginning I'm acting as a principal in the transaction, not as a fiduciary agent for anyone. So I have no loyalty to anybody but me in this particular circumstance. I'm not paid to protect the seller's interests that time. It's my time to protect my interests. So I go to the buyer and I say, how much do you think you'll pay for it? He says, well, we'll pay $250. There's a problem with the MAO. They'll pay $250. So I said, okay, cool. So I go back to the agent. I said, guess what? I have wonderful news. She says, what's that? I said, I'll pay you $240 for this house. No sweat. She says, okay, great. Well, why don't you send over the contract? I'll let the seller decide. She's a good agent. She's not going to give away the farm. I said, great, no problem. So then I send over the offer. She sends it to the seller. Seller comes back and says, well, we want $250. And I said, well, I'd love to help, but I don't really have the $250 to give you. I got $240 to give you, and then I got a whole bunch of money that I got to spend to repair your house. And if I give you $250, I won't have enough money to do everything. So, sorry. Maybe it's not for you. It's okay. It's not a problem. I mean, we can cancel the deal. But I can't give you no $250. $250 is ridiculous. So, fear of loss is a greater motivator than an opportunity to gain. Because a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. That's a guarantee. So they said, fine, no problem. They'll give me $240. And I said, great. So we go ahead and we take $240. Now, problem is, the Homevestors guy backs out. Now I have it under contract at $240. It's okay. Just turn around and try and sell it again to somebody else at $250. Which I try to do, and I can't get it sold. MAO's coming back for revenge, right? Nah. So what I do is I have an inspection period in my contract, and what I do is I go ahead and do my inspection period. I invite other agents and people that I know who are buyers into the home, and I said, I've got interest in this house. I'm looking to sell it. I'm just going to sell my interest, just do a straight assignment, but I'm not really sure what the value is. So this is what happened. Homevestors was here. They said no to $250. I've got it at $250 now. I have it under contract for obviously less than that, but I'm not really sure what the value is. So why don't you take a look at it and tell me what you think it's worth? So they do. One guy comes back, says it's worth $235. That's what I'll pay you, $235. I said, okay, cool, no problem. So then, now I have a problem because I have it under contract at $240. He's willing to sell to me at $235. The homeowner's counting on me to close. Okay? it's really important that you understand if you're going to be wholesaling or doing this investing or flipping or whatever, you got to understand there is a live, breathing person on the other end. And you got to make sure that you think about them, okay? So this person's counting on me to come through with 240. They want the Barbie doll house, okay? And what happens is, what I mean by the Barbie doll house, in case you've never heard that before, basically what I mean by the Barbie doll house is if my 10-year-old girl tells, we're talking about Christmas in June, I say, well, what do you want for Christmas? And she says, I want a Barbie doll house. Okay, great. That's what she wants. But what she gets in December is going to be much different. She might get a Barbie doll car or something, but not the house. And she'll be happy. Why? Because, well, something's better than nothing. MAOReloaded. Something is better than nothing. So then I go back to the seller and I said, check it out. This is a lot worse than I thought. I had the end-use buyer give me contractor bids, tell me what he thought it was worth, tell me why it's worth that, provide all the paperwork, prove it to me. And when he comes and proves it to me, then I go back to the seller and I say, listen, this is why it's worth what it's worth. Because of this repair, this repair, this repair, this repair, and this repair. This is what's going to take. I can't do 240. That's my right. In the contract, I have that right. Even though I've said I'm taking it as is, even though I'm saying it's 240, the fact is, in my contract, it states that I have a 10-day period to inspect it for anything I want to. And if I can find anything, sex offender. Sex offenders are worth money. Septic problems, plumbing problems, easements, anything. If I can find anything wrong with that property that affects the value of that home, okay, to me, then I have a right to come back and negotiate that because it's my interest. I'm the buyer. It's my interest. And I have the right to go ahead and negotiate that. So I go back to the buyer and the seller, the seller, and I said, listen, I can't give you 240, but the title report is clean and I can close whenever you want to. Now I'll give you a choice. We can drop the price to 230 and we'll close on time. Or we can cancel the contract, you give me the money back, and then that's that. We don't have to worry about it. You can put it on the market and get $299. Incidentally, the listing agent had it on MLS at the time. She listed it after we purchased it because she wanted to get credit on MLS. She listed it on the market like $279 or something like that. So I said, you have the choice. You can either take $230 right now or go back on the market and take your chances. It doesn't make a difference to me. I mean, that's my right. And I gave them a few days to think about it. They thought about it. They said, sure, you know what? You're right. Sure. Based on the evidence that you've provided and use buyer provided, then, yeah, sure, 230. Now, it's just a simple assignment. That's all it is. And if the end-use buyer hadn't already agreed to buy it, incidentally, I'm selling it to them for $234.5. I give them $500 off. Why? Because they stuck in there when the other buyer didn't. And you want to reward that with people. When you have a valid buyer, somebody who's willing to work with you like that, then you want to reward that financially, okay? Because then they're going to remember that. Then they'll come back to you. I've got a lot of deals that way. Okay, you always want to be leaving enough cheese for everybody. Don't be greedy, okay? And think about it like a drug dealer, quite frankly. A drug dealer will give you, your first gram free or something like that? I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's the same concept. You give them a little break in the beginning, okay, they're going to be clients for life. Why? Because they trust you. You got all the paperwork in order. You've done everything legally, by the books. You got a product that you're selling. An interest. You're not selling a home. You're selling an interest. Don't ever forget that. The better you package the interest, the easier it is to sell. So whatever your strategy is, rather it be subject to or wholesaling or lease options or whatever your thing, however your funnel is to get you to the point where you're with the seller, okay, whatever you do here, that's what all the gurus try to sell you most of the time. Not everybody, most. Most of the time they try to sell you techniques to get you here face-to-face with the seller. But when it comes face-to-face with the seller, they don't tell you really how to deal with that. Well, the Bandit Sign King will tell you. And I'll tell you for free. Why? Well, it's very simple. Because one day, several people in my life, in various parts of my life, have either paid for education for me and got me to where I am today, or they've taught me certain things, and their only request of me was that I pay it forward. So you're the beneficiary of that promise. I don't teach people and charge any money for anything I do. If you look at any of my channels on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, on social media, you'll notice that I never charge money for anything I do. In terms of training, that is. Because I can't charge you for something somebody gave to me. So you're the recipient of that. So if you've learned something from me, then the only thing I ever ask is that you pay it forward. Give it to somebody else. That way they learn. Now, this video is almost over, but let me just give you one philosophy that I have, okay? The thing about it is, if you look at anything that I've ever produced, okay, the reason why I wanted to do MAOReloaded personally with you was so that you could see my face when I'm telling you this, okay? This is probably the most important 20 seconds of this entire video. This video is about 16, 17 minutes long. This next 20 seconds is probably the most important thing I'm going to tell you, okay? The reason why I saved it for the very end was because I know through analytics on Google and YouTube that probably 75 to 80% of the people who have watched this video quit in the first 10 minutes. If you stuck around this long, then you deserve a special treat. So the next thing I'm about to tell you is probably the most hands down important thing I would ever want to tell anybody. When it comes to real estate, we get by giving. We get by giving. It's just a principle in life. Okay? Second thing, if I can do it, you can do it. There is nothing special about special people. It's all in what they do. And the final thing for the last 10 seconds, the most important thing that I want to tell you, because you've stayed in here this long and listened to me rant and rave, okay? Any skill that anybody ever teaches you falls into now, future, or maybe a business. But at the end of the day, the most important training you'll get is everything right here. Face to face, mano a mano with a seller. However you get to this point, that's the training you want to look for. You want to look for mindset, so you get in the right head, because this is a mental game. Then you want to get the skills. You want to find somebody who's going to teach you some sales skills, because that's what you're selling. You're selling the unrealistic. Somebody who's selling their home at 65% or less of value, that's a pretty unrealistic person. They've had a lot of chances to go sell it to a bandit sign or whatever. But that's where they are now, so they're unrealistic. So you got to sell that. Okay, so it's got to be about skills, mindset, attitude, approach, expectations, speed, volume, intensity. That is the sum total of everything you need to know. Those 3 videos I produced, the red pill, the bandit sign thing that, Odyssey and I put together, that, and then this. These are probably the 3 most important things I would want to tell you. Okay, out of all the training I've ever done, this is it. For the top part, this part here, getting the business to you to here, okay? For this, it's all about attitude, approach, and expectations. What you come into this with, your attitude. It's going to be good. It's going to work. I can make this happen. It's possible, okay? Approach. What approach did you choose to get to this point? Bandit signs, yellow letters, magnets, car, whatever it is. What was your approach to get to this point? What's your expectation of this moment? What's your expectation? Okay? Attitude, approach, expectations. And then when it comes down to a seller, the presentation, the skills, the 3 things you need to know, the most important thing I ever learned, I learned in the Marine Corps. Okay? Speed, volume, intensity. You got to call them back as soon as possible. Speed. Okay? You got to be intense. You got to be with volume. Hey man, I do this all the time. It's cool. It's safe with me because I'm this or that, or I've got this experience, whatever. But it's got to be safe. So speed, call them back quick. Volume. I do it all the time. It's no problem. I see your problems all the time. I can handle it. Okay? Intensity. Listen, do you want to sell right now? Because if you want to sell right now, I'm ready to go. I've got the cash to make it happen. I know the rules. There is no spoon. I know the rules. I can make this happen for you. Intensity. So thank you for watching for 20 minutes. I appreciate it. That is the Matrix Reloaded and the sum total of my philosophy. I have other things. Don't worry. There's more. Y'all have a great day. Take care. Back to killing zombies.